Well, good day to you. It is January the 12th, and I hope wherever you are, you're having a wonderful day. My name is Gary Willing, and as always, I want to welcome you to Search for Signs. And if you've heard these videos before, I want to welcome you back. But whether you've heard this information before or you're totally new, look into it, educate yourself better about it. I've included links in the description portion of every one of these videos that I think take you to websites that give you the best background information about Maitreya, about why he's here, about his priorities, and about what it means for humanity that he's coming back. Even about the many miracle signs. So they're there for you if and whenever you want to look more into it. Now, you want to join the discussion and learn more about Maitreya that way? I love it. I welcome every person to comment, ask questions. You can email me at searchforsigns@mail.com. You can also reach out to me through Facebook and post your comment or post your question that way. But I would recommend just doing it on YouTube. It's a lot easier for me to find it. But anywho, I want to thank also Brunoff, Maitreya, Ashwakradati, and I know I'm mispronouncing your name, I'm so sorry, and Zach Laney for commenting since I put a video up. Thank you so much for doing that. One of you asked questions. I'll try to get into the questions here, but I really do want to thank you for commenting. Now, Ashwakradati, and again, I apologize, I know I'm mispronouncing your name, wrote about a Maitreya experience they had with the hand of Maitreya. Now, I want to talk about this because I know a lot of people don't know about this, but this is the most extraordinary, from my humble opinion, the most extraordinary miracle to ever take place over the last 40 years, since these miracles really started to really mount, like healing waters, crosses of light, UFOs, crop circles, weeping icons, disappearing hitchhikers and all this stuff. This, I think, is the most extraordinary miracle to ever take place. Just my little take on it. Now, it's also the least known miracle. But what happened is, there was a woman in Barcelona, Spain, who had a son who was very much into this, into the Share International group. She was not. She just kind of knew about all this stuff through him. Anyway, one day she went into her second bathroom that she hardly ever went into, and there was an imprint of a hand on her bathroom mirror. Now, she had some people coming in there and clean, so she thought maybe one of them had just left the handprint on there in a careless way, and she wiped it off. Well, I think it was the next day, it reappeared. Now, this time, there was nobody in her apartment but her, and it wasn't hers. It was a handprint of a man's, a big handprint. And so she thought maybe there was something to this. Maybe this had something to do with what her son had been talking about these many years, so she rang him up. And he came over, took a photograph of it, sent it to Benjamin Creme. He asked Maitreya himself. Maitreya said, yes, it is his handprint. It's there for a specific reason, and I'm going to get into that in a second. And please ask this woman not to wipe it off again, because he wasn't going to put it back up a third time. So she didn't. Now, this is an extraordinary miracle, for one thing, for the quality of it, but it's also extraordinary because you don't have to fly all the way to Barcelona, Spain and see the original. You can actually just see a PDF file or a screenshot of it or whatever on the internet, and it'll have the same effect. But Maitreya himself said that this is the closest he can get to any one of us before he's out known for who he is in the world. And he also said that his help is there for anyone. All you have to do is ask. So when you look at an image of this handprint, which looks like the Shroud of Turin, it's not a dirty looking handprint. It looks like a 3D image of his hand. It's quite extraordinary. You can ask Maitreya directly, and it gets whatever you have to say to him a lot more efficiently and a lot more effectively. So use it. And he's wanting people to use this, as a way of him being able to help any one of us. Now, you might not recognize the help per se, but you do have to be specific. The times that I've been very specific with the hand, I've been just absolutely amazed at what happened, because of it and the help that came my way. So you got to be careful what you ask for. Sometimes be careful what you ask for. You might just get it kind of deal. Well, that can happen. But if you want to know more about the hand of Maitreya, if you go to the if you go to the Search for Signs Facebook page, I actually have a pinned video about it where Benjamin Creme himself is talking about it. You can also just go to YouTube and probably Google it on YouTube and find it that way. You can also go to the Share International site and read more about it, and you can actually see the image of it, take a screenshot or download it as a PDF file and use it for whatever you need for help. So from Maitreya. But I'm going to read just their experience about it, because it was quite extraordinary and very moving for me to read it. This person said, I had the experience of placing my hand on Maitreya's hand. The experience was breathtaking. At a certain point, I realized that Maitreya's hand absorbed my hand, and I continued to do the work that there is to do inside my physical body and other bodies. At that moment, I discovered the power he has while being benevolent, coating my body with love. So thank you very much. And there's more to her comment, and you can read it. It's in the last video. It was a wonderful comment, but I have to try to answer this next question without it going into too much overtime. So I really do appreciate you posting that, what you had to say. Now, Brunoff, this person asked a question. In the last video, I tried to answer what he had to say. He asked another question, but the first thing he said, he goes, I thank you for your answers. And you're welcome, Mr. Brunoff, wherever you are. I really do appreciate it. You're very kind for doing that. But he said, to be honest, that's not the first time I heard about Maitreya. First, I heard about him in a book of Buddhism, and not too long ago in the conspiracy sphere about him being, in reality, the Antichrist. But he had so many connections with the elites and others thinking of him like the second coming of Christ, literally. Personally, I'm still looking, and I hope your version, if I could say, is preferable. And, to be frank, I trust more my reading about Buddhism, Hinduism, and the authors than any conspiracy theorist. But I was curious. When you said in one of your videos that Gorbachev and Clinton, I think you said, were with him asking questions and all, but some of these people are known criminals, pedophiles, human traffickers, warmongers, devil worshippers, and other things. But why would Maitreya be with those people? I get that sometimes infiltrating the system and changing it from the inside could work, but why, if he is like you said, he hangs with people like that? Should he not try to make them stop what they do? It's been so many years since, and things don't seem to be better. By the way, if I misspell, my native language is not English. Neither's mine. Mine's American. And in reality, and you're okay, I understand what you're saying. And in reality, not trying to say bad stuff about him or being a troll. I'm just trying to understand. Thanks. Well, first of all, I want to say something about that last little bit. I get comments all the time from people who are trying to work this out within themselves. Now, it manifests sometimes as just being inquisitive and asking a question here or there. Sometimes they can be very combative. In both cases, I just understand that this is just the process that they're going through. I had to go through it. I didn't like this information the first time I heard it. You know what I'm saying? I didn't make great strides against it, but I didn't like it the first time. It took me months before I actually got it, to where I was like, yeah, there might be something to this. And that's why I always encourage you, the listener, to read more about Maitreya. Educate yourself better about this and look into it. And you'll find something, whether you're a hardcore Christian or not, or atheist or not, you can find something in it that you can see is true. You know what I mean? Because there is truth to this. Like the need for peace, the need to save our environment, and those kind of things. Those are truths, So you don't have to just go on the seemingly ideological difference and just shut it down, right? So there's a lot more to this than just ideology. Like I said, there's no religion higher than ideology, or there's no religion or ideology higher than truth. But I have a funny anecdote about the process and working things out. So a few years back, when Benjamin Creme was still alive, he was giving conferences in San Francisco, and I can't remember how long ago it was, but it was a while ago. And this one afternoon, he was up on the stage, and he was talking to everybody in the group, and there was about 100 or so of us there that weekend, and he's looking around the room, and I can't remember why he said this, what the reason was, but I just remember him saying this. And he goes, with my magic eye, because he was blind, like almost totally blind, but he goes, I can still see every one of yours last lifetimes. And he goes, most of you in this room were alive in Palestine when Jesus was around. Half of you supported what he had to say. The other half helped put him to death. And then you look around the room and you see a bunch of very well-to-do, not well-to-do, but very, just kind of middle-of-the-road people. I mean, nobody you would think would ever try to put somebody to death. You know what I'm saying? Most of them were in their 50s or 60s, maybe early 70s. So he's looking around, and that's what he said. So you talk about the process of working things out. But we all have to do it. Because, A, the information about the masters has long been forgotten by the vast, vast majority of the people. There was a time hundreds of years ago when we all knew who these masters were because they taught humanity directly. But they left the public eye and they retreated to their abodes, which were mainly in the mountain and desert regions around the world, far away from the public eye, and worked indirectly through the disciples. So then the information about the masters got distorted. More and more of it became myths than actual reality about who and what they were, to the point where most people don't even think anything of it. So for most people, when they hear this information, it's a shock. But it's the truth. There is a kingdom above humanity called the Masters of Wisdom, and they are here helping humanity, and they have been since the beginning of time. And they are coming back into the world at this time. Even if it seems like things aren't getting better, it's all a part of the process too, Mr. Bruno. But they're doing this, and it's taking this long, seemingly, from our perspective, because humanity doesn't know anything about them. And they put these miracle signs in there. They more and more changes have happened little bit by little bit by little bit. From our standpoint, it seems rather slow and, painstakingly slow. But from the master's point of view, it's lightning fast how fast things are changing and for the better. And Benjamin Creme's master talks about it all the time. So just have faith. It's okay. We'll get through this time together, and we will have a future, as Benjamin Creme's master said, with the promise of revealed divinity. But it starts with the principle of sharing. But I'm going to get back to your comment anyway, or your question. Now, in terms of the conspiracy theory about Maitreya meeting with the elites and all that stuff, the only book that I ever read that talked about it was William Cooper's Behold a Pale Horse. Is that where because it almost sounds exactly like that. I remember reading that around the same time that I found out about this information. Now, one thing about William Cooper is he talked about Maitreya in that way. He also talked about UFOs and the occupants of the UFOs being evil, personas and have a nefarious intention. And they had treaties with certain governments to operate on these people and abduct these people and all that kind of stuff. And God knows what they were going to do in the future and how bad it was that they were here and all that. He had evidence that that this is all true. Well, I stumbled across a video a couple years back, but it was recorded, and it was definitely William Cooper because I know his voice. He had a very distinct voice, and it was a recording of him saying right before he died, it was like a few months before he died, that there was no truth to anything he said about the UFOs. None. And he kind of spun it and said that he was getting this misinformation from government officials or whatever, but whether that's true or not, I doubt it. There was no truth to any of it. It was all just a bunch of fear and paranoia. Now, I never said that Clinton and Gorbachev met Maitreya. I don't know if they did or not. The only thing I know, and this is coming through Benjamin Creme, is that Gorbachev was inspired by Maitreya to end the Cold War and help free up Russia at that time. But whether he met him, and he might have met him in the way that I've met Maitreya as a familiar, but I don't think Gorbachev knew that he was speaking to Maitreya. The only two world leaders I know, and this is only coming from Ben, that knew who Maitreya was when they were speaking to him. The first one was Willy Brandt, the former Chancellor of Germany. He and Maitreya met right after Maitreya went into London in the 70s. And he met with Willy Brandt, and he asked him if he would come up with a panel of people of extreme viewpoints, extreme right-wing, extreme left-wing, extreme Democrat, extreme Republican or whatever, extreme capitalist, extreme communist, extreme socialist. I mean, people of extreme viewpoints to come together to help write and come about to create a blueprint for the principle of sharing. It's called the Brandt Report. It's quite an extraordinary thing, which he did. He created a consensus among the people. It wasn't done by committee or by vote. It was a true consensus of the best of this, getting rid of the worst of that, get the best of that person's idea and everything. It was quite an extraordinary thing, but that was all under the direct guidance and inspiration and asking of Maitreya. The other one was the former King Hussein of Jordan. There's a King Hussein of Jordan now, but that's his son. But the previous king was asked specifically by Maitreya if he would be willing to give up some of his land for the Palestinian people and give them a new homeland. And he did. And then the Zionists in Israel came and took it back. You know what I'm saying? So, but he was asked by Maitreya, and he knew who Maitreya. I'm sure there are other world leaders who know who Maitreya is, who are being asked not to talk about Maitreya because of their stature and their position in the world. It would be an infringement of the free will of the people if they heard about this information from somebody like that, because they would just believe it based on the fact that they're famous or whatever, or looked up to or whatever. Now, in terms of the elites, you know, I don't think there's any real truth to the QAnon theory about the elites, to be honest. Maybe there's a germ of truth in there somewhere, but it's just all hype. You know what I'm saying? There's no evidence. There's nothing that's ever come out. And it's not what you know, it's what you can prove, right? To be honest. But, you know, a lot of this came in after Jeffrey Epstein. Of course, there were pictures of Bill Clinton. There's pictures of Prince Andrew. There's pictures of Donald Trump. They seem to forget the whole thing about Donald Trump. He was working on the inside. You know what I'm saying? He's the good guy, right? Well, now he was partying in love with everybody else. Now, whether they knew what was going on or not, I have no idea. But just like my grandmother says, you know, when you hang around with those people in those situations, you look guilty. But I don't know if they are guilty of that or not. But they've kind of taken it to the whole extreme with the cabal and the blood sucking and all. I mean, I just think there's no truth to any of that stuff. But when it comes to the elites, let's just say Maitreya has met with some of these people who perhaps aren't necessarily quote unquote good people. You know, they are our representatives in some way. So who is he going to talk to? We were the ones that put him in power. You know what I'm saying? We're just as guilty of them being there as they are, to be honest. You know, Maitreya is dealing with them, and just as he's dealing with anybody else. The times that Maitreya has seen me, I'm not perfect. You know what I mean? Does that mean that I'm a bad person? I don't see myself as a bad person, but I know a lot of people think I'm a bad person. You know what I'm saying? But he said to me one time, and I've taken this as a mantra, but he said, I never judge anyone on whether they're good or bad. I only notice the good things that they do. That's everyone. Now, he's not blind to what they're doing. You know, he doesn't ignore it. He knows what they're doing, but that's for them to work out. That's their karma. They are going to experience, you know, until they realize when they that they're harming people, it's harming them, they'll stop. But he's got to let them go through that process, just like he's got to let everybody else go through that process. You know what I mean? But he's still got to help inspire and galvanize humanity to build a brilliant golden civilization based on righteousness and truth. How are you going to do that? You know, he's talking to everyday people, but he's also talking to people who perhaps maybe are not always on the up and up, but maybe possibly have a little light of truth in them to help bring it about. I don't know, you know, but if we were to go back 2,000 years ago during Jesus' time, he went into the home of the tax collectors. That was a huge no-no for any Jew to do. And he did it. And I'm sure if he was alive today, oh my gosh, you know, this spiritual teacher, Jesus, is going, you know, but he did it because he loved everyone, no matter what. You know, Maitreya is the same way. You know, we judge these people on being good or bad. They don't. You know, are they perfect? Probably not. Is there any truth to what everybody thinks about them? There's probably a little bit, but maybe not 100%. But, you know, it's going to be okay. You know, we're working through this as a people, and all the corruption that we see now and all our leaders on both sides, you know, and everywhere is all a part of all this stuff coming to the surface so we can deal with it. And it's painful, but it's there. We have to deal with this before we can move on as a people. But if you want to know who Maitreya is, Brunoff, the best way to really know who he is and what he means for humanity is to read the article, The Son of Man, by Benjamin Creme's master. There's a video, if you search on YouTube, Son of Man, Benjamin Creme, he reads this article himself. It's quite an extraordinary article, but it's better for you to read it yourself anyway. If you go to the Share International site, it's on there. If you go to the articles by this master and stuff, it's there. It's an older article. You might have to scroll up a little bit. But anyway, he says at the tail end of it, and I'll just leave you with this. He goes, Maitreya has come to do battle with ignorance and fear, division and want. His weapons are spiritual understanding and love. His shining armor is truth itself. I love everyone. Thanks so much for commenting. For those of us who commented, thank you for listening. You guys have a great day, and I look forward to putting up videos in the future. Take care. Remember to take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.